Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin, and today I am interviewing Jennifer Lloyd. She is absolutely spectacular. She is Mrs. Queen of the World, and let me tell you, she really is the queen of the world. She has 6 kids. She has a business. She co-owns a business with her husband. We talk about all things, so I'm excited for you to get to know her. Hi, Jennifer. I'm so excited to have you join me today. Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, hey, y'all. I'm so excited to be here with you, Heather, and to speak to your audience today. Some of you have known me as Queen of the World, but it always wasn't Queen of the World for me. Actually, I grew up with very, very humble beginnings in Korea. I literally grew up in a cement box with no running water and no indoor bathroom. My mother actually created a makeshift toilet by using a trash can. And I remember growing up as a kid just feeling I had a lot of low self-worth, a lack of confidence. And I grew up with this mindset of, I can't do it because I can't see it. But it took a lot of inner work and also believing in the impossible to achieve that American dream. My parents are immigrants to America, so I grew up with very strict parents who are very culturally Asian, and they put a lot of focus on education, but also and my involvement with the church. And so it was through that experience of having that higher purpose that really carried me through in life. Today, my husband and we own a multi-million dollar corporation. We have about 120 employees that we manage. And on top of that, we are raising 6 incredible children. During the pandemic, I did something really wild. I was tapping into my passion because we were all stuck in the house. Offices was closed, kids were home, and I decided to invest in a camera. I had a passion for makeup artistry for 2 decades. I've implemented that by volunteering and helping with a lot of pageant gals and working at different pageants. And it wasn't until I got my camera where I was able to capture those important moments and really able to help my clients reach their goals. So I created a business called This is Jennifer Lloyd Artistry, where I focus on beauty as well as photography. And that has really given me a platform to not only help women know their superpower, but I'm also teaching them how to tap into personal development, such as like hair and makeup, as well as feeling confident in front of the camera. I've realized that my journey did not just end with pageantry. It really opened my eyes to a bigger community, which are women who are transitioning back into the workforce. And it doesn't matter if you're highly educated or you've had a lot of years in the office environment. If you're transitioning back into the field, there are some things that we unfortunately deal with as women. Sometimes our confidence is depleted, and sometimes we lose that knack, that skill of presenting our best self. So I'm finding myself in situations where I'm teaching these women with all types of backgrounds how to feel confident in front of the camera. And I realize that digital literacy, being digitally prepared, showing up as your best self on a digital platform as well as in person is so very important, especially when you're looking to get back into the workforce. I partnered with Dress for Success, and I found that my impact is great because I'm really targeting those women who are getting out of the military, or maybe their grandmother's going back into the workforce, or maybe they're stay-at-home moms who need to go back to work because they're realizing that the inflation is really high. So I'm really enjoying that journey right now, and that is in a nutshell about who I am.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a question. How
Yes.
old were you when your parents immigrated to the United States?
So my dad decided to jump ship. You hear about fresh off the boat. That's literally my parents. My dad is Japanese. My mom is Korean. He literally came to America when he was 19 years old just to join the army to serve. And at the time, the army was not looking at any backgrounds. And so he joined as an illegal. And because of his service into the military, President Johnson at the time awarded non-citizens the citizenship. So actually, I was born in America, but right after I was born in America, my dad had a tour in Korea. And that's where I was growing up, and my early childhood was in Korea.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
hmm
I'm really excited to learn more about the Mrs. Queen of the World. So tell me more about what is that pageant system like? How did you get
Yes.
involved in pageantry in the first place? Take it where you want to go.
Okay. So like most women, I always hear this story time after time. They've always envisioned about doing a pageant, but they couldn't afford it in their younger days. And so I didn't discover pageantry until I was an adult and a married adult. And at that time, it seemed like it was a goal that was unattainable because I'm looking at these gorgeous women. I'm thinking, how do they get there? But it took years of investment. I started my journey back when I was 27 years old, and it was through women who mentored me on, proper stance, proper hair and makeup, setting up appearances, etc. It took a lot of women who helped me get prepared for a pageant or get prepared to present or with public speaking. It just so happened that I competed a few years ago. I took some time off. It was in 2021. I competed for Mrs. World, and it just didn't work out for me. The cards were not in my favor. But one thing I realized about success is that sometimes it doesn't happen the way you expect it to right away, but you can't be successful if you give up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I continued my journey. I discovered Queen of the World. It's an international pageant based in New York City, but we have countries from all over the world compete. And I wanted to represent Korea again. And I was given that opportunity here back in April. And I was crowned on the most iconic day, Heather. It was on April 25th. It was not too hot, it's not too cold, and all I needed was a light jacket.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Um,
But
so cute. So tell me, um, I'm thinking about pageantry for married women. How do
yeah.
we encourage more married women to want to pursue pageant? Have you thought about how to just kind of recruit more women into pageantry?
Yeah, so my responsibility as a global title holder is to actually, be a brand ambassador at the same time. I'm trying my very best. I'm using social media and all the skills that I have, whether that's, word of mouth or just showcasing my journey so that I can inspire more women to jump into it. It definitely is an investment. So that's kind of the challenge that I'm always running into when I am working with a woman who is interested in it, because just like purchasing a car, for instance, your family needs to sit and talk about it, because really that's an important part of the journey for a woman, because there is a small investment or it can be a large investment depending on how much you want to do or what you're looking to have for your year, for instance. So, that I try to target those points, but also I want to encourage women about community as well as developing your voice, because my job is not only to inspire women, but I'm really advocating on what's very much important to me, which is helping women with financial independence as well as connecting them with resources. I found that like a lot of women don't have access to either the right mentorship or information. And so it helps me when I'm able to help them. I feel so fulfilled when I can help a woman who's trying to achieve a goal and direct her to the right person or give her some advice that I have gained over the years.
So, based on all of your experience, is there a specific defining moment in your life that impacted you the most?
Oh, yes. So I've had a lot of failures in my life, but I have to say the most defining moment was when I was once a single mom raising two little girls. And I was a young mom, and I was unfortunately pushed into that direction because at the time, my girl's father was not, and his character was not very good. Let's just say that. But we all are faced with different challenges. But for me, that was a really hard time in my life. And some people don't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it because being a single mom, I really was struggling with not only the social aspect of it, feeling like a failure, but also just having to survive. And I just want to encourage more young women out there that sometimes things don't go your way, and sometimes you're stuck in a circumstance, but that moment doesn't define what your future will look like. Just keep pressing forward. I'm very happy to say I'm with the love of my life, and he was able to adopt my children, and we have six total together, and it's just been a really beautiful relationship.
I can relate to that. I was a single mom for 6 years. So I can connect with that. And you do sometimes feel like somehow you failed, even though maybe someone else failed you.
Right, right. I felt like, my whole life I've been in a transition. I got married really young, had kids right away, thought I just knew everything. And I realized that, I'm in it for the long haul. I want to be the best mom. I want to be the best version of me. And it takes a lot of work. But during those transitions, you deal with a lot of issues like emotional security, learning to trust somebody. And then also, jumping back into a relationship. What does that look like? And so I realized through those transitions how important it is to have women around you who understand and who can have empathy, because life has really taught me a lot about humility. And so having the opportunity to work with women who are jumping back into the workforce means a lot because I understand where they're at. I was once there as well.
If you could define winning, how would you define it?
Oh gosh, I think just never giving up. And and I can give you a personal experience and story. So my crowning for Queen of the World wasn't just a win for myself, but it was also for my friends, people who support me, my sponsors, my husband, because they never gave up on me. And although I took that risk, it was actionable, it was scary. You feel like you will disappoint others if you don't succeed when you are succeeding, right? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there, you're in the arena, you're not just talking, you're doing the walk. um, you know that is winning to me. Winning to me is this, it involves everybody, and that would define my success, is that we did it together.
I've always thought that, just entering, you're ahead of everybody else who didn't have the guts to try. And so,
Oh yeah.
therefore,
Hmm.
you're already ahead of so many people who just couldn't even put their name in the hat. So, no matter where you
Absolutely. And it
place.
drives me bonkers, Heather, when people have so much feedback, but they're not in the arena. Like, get your butt in the arena. Let's see you do the work, because it is a lot. It's a commitment, and it's a mental race as well. Especially as a mother, you are dealing with not only your responsibilities you have with just your family and your life, the routines, you're going against the grain. One of the biggest challenges that I'm dealing with as a married woman with children, with several businesses, people may say, "Oh, do you ever relax? Are you ever home?" Like, are they supposed to limit my capabilities? Like, who is there to limit what you can and cannot do, right? So that's a bias that I currently deal with, and I think it's real for a lot of women.
Well, how do you do it all, though? How do you keep all of the balls in the air?
Yeah, I know a lot of girls and queens talk about scheduling. Oh, I'm good at scheduling. Oh, honey, it takes more than scheduling. It actually requires a lot of teamwork. So I'm so thankful that I have a very incredible relationship. I have a dual partnership with my husband. And before we jumped into, for instance, Queen of the World, and I want to give this advice to all the girls who are thinking about going, or if you're going to a national pageant, you really have to think about the budget, okay? Because it really comes down to what that number looks like, and being really honest with your
Mm-hmm.
spouse, because you're going to see that they're going to have to meet you in places where you were not expecting. And what I mean by that, it's an emotional experience where you have to make decisions, and that person has to be able to jump and meet you there, and you guys both have to be okay with that. And for me, I appreciate having that dual partnership, because I know that when I need him, he's there. And when I need to make a split decision and making an appearance, or I'm communicating with the sponsor, and I'm planning on doing like a live, or
Mm-hmm.
and I can't be there for the dinner time because I'm trying to make the international time zone. Like, there's understanding, right? So yeah, very important to have that teamwork behind you.
It sounds like a lot of transparency, being really
Very
transparent.
much so, a lot of transparency, and I am showcasing and pioneering the way, I believe, for a lot of the married women who are doing pageantry, because not only am I transparent with my appearances, but I'm also just being very vulnerable in
Mm-hmm.
my storytelling, because I want people to know that outside of the beauty and the glam, that there is really literally a real person there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have these real experiences, and I do like to show up, Heather, looking my very best. But outside of that as well, like I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I'm a person who has real emotions and I have the same struggles as everybody else.
So let's put your storytelling to the test then. Okay.
Okay.
So tell me maybe about a struggle that you've had through this journey in pageantry that you can be transparent about so that people can see, oh yeah, I see myself in her.
Yeah, so I can speak on behalf of, a mom who's competed in pageantry, because I've had daughters who have also competed for various titles. And, the disappointment is real.
Mhm.
And right now, I've noticed a lot of gals who didn't hit a certain benchmark going through some of that same feeling of disappointment, and we've all experienced it. And you really can't take that emotion away from somebody. They just have to process it. So I'm just really trying my very best to encourage others. Just understand that our redirection, it requires you just to process and to pivot. But the key is just to not give up. And giving up means that you're putting blame, or you're replaying
Mhm.
these thoughts, or replaying what I could have done better, and really crippling yourself. How you don't give up is that you try to pull a positive from that experience, whether you had a great experience with the production, or you made those connections with the queens that you wanted to always make, or meet friends, or maybe you've gained some opportunities with a sponsor. Because one thing I realized about pageantry is that you have the opportunity to build these incredible relationships. And I've done that personally as myself, but truly just not giving up on yourself. And if you find yourself mentally ill because of pageantry, I believe you just need to take a break. Sorry, my
I
child.
know, I see
You're
her.
in the shot, Ellie. This is real life. I'm so sorry.
She's so cute.
It's summer break. She thought she was hiding.
Yeah, she's
This is
not, but
real
it's
life.
okay. She's precious. Oh my gosh. Well, it really segues. It's the honest truth of your life right now. This
This
kind of
is my real life right now.
oh for sure.
Um,
How old is
but yeah,
she?
so don't. So my daughter, she's 7 years old, and she's been involved as well, but only as a little sister. I haven't put
Hmm.
her in anything that's competitive yet, because I'm not quite sure emotionally she can handle that
Hmm.
disappointment of not winning. And I think that just takes a little bit more maturity. Thank you, Elle.
I love it. No, I love. But actually, what you're talking about really segues to another question I have for you anyway, and
Okay,
that's
okay.
tell me about a time when you didn't win, but you learned a valuable lesson, and what was that lesson you learned?
So I have a couple of examples. I want to first talk about my business with my photography. When I started, I just picked up a camera, one of the best on the market. I based it based off of video quality, right? And I
Hmm.
was like, oh gosh, all these cameras are alike, they're all expensive, but I'm gonna get the best one's best video quality. That was the only difference. And I remember thinking, okay, I got all the expensive equipment, got the right tools, got the lighting all set up, but really it just takes experience. And there was a saying, you can't pay someone to do your push-ups for you. You literally have to go out there in the trenches and do the work yourself. And that required me to fail and fail many, many times. I'd have a subject in front of me and I'm like, oh, this looks great. But when I went to go process it, it wasn't good enough. And I would always compare my work to some of the most seasoned photographers out there. And then I would look at some of the mistakes I made and just really beat myself up, where I was staying up late at night, just, trying to figure it out. And it really just takes time and time again. You got to put the work in, and you'll see the progress over time. And I have to say the same with pageantry. I competed for another organization, and I really thought I was so strong. I had people telling me like, oh my gosh, it's your year, you're going to win it, and I was like, I was feeling good. I was so prepared. I worked with my coaches. My fitness was just on par. Like, there was no stopping me. But at the end of the day, five judges who have different viewpoints on beauty and what that poise looks like to them, and they went a different direction. And I remember right after that competition, I just felt this sense of peace. Everybody else around me, my team was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? Because they're like, this is it. This is your year. And everybody was predicting it, but I just had a sense of peace because I felt like I put it all out there and God clearly just shut that door. And when I talk about redirection, I mean, like, don't limit yourself to just one system. There's so many different organizations out there. Y'all just need to do the research, go research and see what other organizations are available. Sometimes you just need to take a vacation, take a
Mm-hmm.
step away from pageantry, read a book, and reevaluate. And if that's something that your heart desires, that God's calling you to do, jump back into it. But at the end of the day, it's just a pageant. And, truly, we're given this wonderful life and you can make your life as big as you want. The title doesn't define that.
I think it's interesting for people to recognize how little amount of time the judges have with you. Like the
Yes.
interviews in the system you competed in, how long are the interviews for Queen of the World?
Yes. So Queen of the World, I had a panel interview, and this is the first time I've ever been involved in a panel interview. We had seven distinguished judges,
Mm-hmm.
and they had all kinds of backgrounds, which I was really excited about because I come from a professional background, so thinking, yes, I've got this.
Right.
And we had about a minute and a half of an introduction. But what I loved about the panel interview was that I felt like it was a fair shot. They all
Mm-hmm.
heard the same message at the same time. And our interview was about 10 minutes long.
Oh, that's good.
So they got to know
Yeah.
me a little bit, So I really did appreciate that. And my advice for young women or any woman who's jumping into pageantry is really understand how powerful digital media is.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I had to learn, just like with hair and makeup, or just like with wardrobe or public speaking. That digital media experience and knowledge is so very important these days because the organizations are really looking for an ambassador that's going to not only promote their brand, but also be able to recruit and highlight their sponsors. That is ultimately your job. And when you're on a digital platform, you have to be engaging, inspiring. You have to also have humility and be able to show truly your walk, your journey, so that more women can really find themselves and align with that. Because again, you're trying to promote the brand and recruit.
It's interesting too because it's not part of the scoring process, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
typically you're not scored on your social media presence, but it's still a requirement for the job.
I don't think, okay, so it's not publicly stated, but oftentimes, like I've been a judge
Mm-hmm.
several times, and oftentimes you'll hear a director say, I'm looking for someone who is going to promote, who's going to, because they need marketing, right? Because it's an unregulated business and it's like everything else. You need contestants, otherwise you're not going to be able to make any money, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
or retain your sponsors, because how are you going to promote the products and services? So it is an untalked about quality that I think um, it needs to be more addressed, in my opinion. It needs to be addressed more because there are judges who are given platforms, and
Mm-hmm.
we do look. We
Oh,
do look to see what work you're doing.
and a lot
Yeah.
of them, they ask for your social media
Mhm.
handles. And so the majority of
Exactly.
the judges are going to be checking those out in advance. And I
Exactly.
talked to one of my former clients who judged a state competition not too long ago. And she told me, she
Hmm.
says, I kept a score of each and every girl on their social media. It wasn't that it mattered towards their actual score from me, but it might have mattered in that top five ballot. It might have
So
mattered in the composite scoring because she did the America system. And so you never know when it's going to play a role and play a part.
you never know. So why not just do your very best and just do the work? Again, you can't pay your coach to do your posts for you. You have to do it
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So really being educated on digital literacy, I think is so very key, especially nowadays with pageantry. Everything is out there. And ultimately, if a judge is going to look at your social media, you want to tell a great story about yourself, right? So just make sure that the social media is scoured up and really highlighting the best version of you. And one more point about the judging, like
Mm-hmm.
when a judge is looking at a gal, she's not just looking at the number she has on her social media handle. Because as we know, some women go and purchase
Mm-hmm.
followers and purchase likes. It's not about that. It's literally about your message. And in order to be competitive, I think you have to be branded not only on a digital platform, but also your image is your brand. So make sure that that is consistent. So when a judge looks at you, they see that consistency and they can trust that you're going to be able to lead a great year, be a great title holder.
So how do people follow you? How do we find you?
So I have a website. I love my website. It's Mrs. Jennifer Lloyd. What I love about my website is that I'm multifaceted, and this
Mm-hmm.
website really does highlight the press that I have been in, just my journey in pageantry, but also showcases my portfolio with my work and just highlights just about who I am. You can find my social media handles on there as well.
So tell me a little bit about what it would be like to work with you, because you mentioned working with girls and doing the photography. So what does that entail?
I've been told I've been given the gift of encouragement, and I truly believe that. I think it has a lot to do with probably my complex trauma growing up as a
Mm.
child. And so I have a real sensitive, emotional part to me, and I love that femininity about me. I'm very feminine in that way where I can kind of feel the energy of another person. And I've worked with women of all ages. I've worked with young kids to seniors. And what I found that oftentimes we get stuck in a mindset of limited beliefs in ourselves. And so when I'm working with a woman, I actually turn into a counselor.
I
So
hear you.
I'm
I'm the
working
same.
with some of their problems that they've had, or just some of their issues with like skin or hair, and just really trying to not only educate them on how we can camouflage or make that better, but teaching them techniques so that when they are walking into an interview room, they have these great techniques on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Gals who work with me, they oftentimes will record a video and I'll walk them through step by step on products and techniques. I'm a makeup artist. I love working with women and really showcasing their best self, but I'm also a believer in empowering women to do it themselves. And I say that because there's so much work out there. Believe me, there's not going to be a shortage of women signing up for $3,000 hair and makeup. Okay. But I think a lot of women are struggling for to have a budget like that. So it's important for me professionally, and I believe ethically, morally, it feels good in my heart and soul that I give these tips to these women so that they have more empowerment in their hands. They can go into a pageant and do the application themselves without having to spend that kind of money. And then with the photography piece, I love that creative aspect, being able to capture a beautiful woman, and especially if it's my artwork and showing that to the world. That's just the way I love to express my creativity and my love of the art.
Okay, last question. What's
Yeah.
a piece of advice that you've been given that you believe has made the biggest impact or change in you?
Okay, so Heather, I'm 46 years old. I've got 6 kids. I feel like I've lived a life of pure transition, always trying to fit in something because I was always raising kids and I always was trying to tap into my passion. I just want to encourage others that it's never too late. It's never literally too late to start. I started my business on my own with my passion and I monetized it. And maybe 20 years ago, you couldn't monetize your passion, but now you can. There's a lot of opportunities out there for you to get started on something. And it doesn't matter if you feel trapped because you're a stay-at-home mom and you have kids. Believe me, I've been there. There's opportunities for you to work on something every single day. There's something for you to work on, whether that is mentally, physically, spiritually, to help you go reach that goal. There's something for you to do. So it's never too late. And I truly believe that.
I love that, and I agree with you. It's never too late to start.
Mm-hmm.
It's also never too late to become a Patreon member. So if you are not already a Patreon member for She Wins, please join because Jennifer and I are going to tackle some of the things she's talked about. I want to dive into what it's like to raise 6 kids because I have 2, and I feel like it's a lot. And it's obviously not too much. And then also for our pageant level, I want to really dive more into some of the things that you were talking about with not only hair and makeup, but also interview tips or anything that you might have to give. So thank you so much for joining, Jennifer. I'm excited to follow you on social media.